do that. So potentially, if you could email me, maybe I'll send you an email as a reminder and kind of let me know from this list or from anything else. Again, these are advisory public hearings, so that means that you're involved in it. The recordings would be something that staff and our consultant would do, and certainly they'd be up and we'll disseminate it in Sentinel, Lakeshore Advantage, any way that we can out into the community, our media, next door, Facebook, all of that stuff. The thought, though, is that, do you, planning commissioners, want to have any other opportunity to address specific topics? And that's where the advisory public hearing would come from, would be important for those things.
I guess my biggest concern is that single property owners will have an opportunity to express their concern. To me, that's the most important thing, and that's where I think things would get quite emotional and people could get quite angry about things, and we need to be able to allow them to have their say and listen to them. And so I don't know, I can't imagine how to plan that, but I feel it would be to have more of those kind of meetings than more specific potential conflict meetings. If we were going to distribute these meetings out, I would have more for individual property owners to speak than that.
Would it be helpful because it seems like we're actually going to be discussing the maps on the 22nd now that we've run out of time. Would it be helpful if we create a map that just shows properties currently zoned RTRN or R1 and whether they'll be changed? And that way we can get a good handle on
If we get a
This is
handle on
the
the
single
numbers, I think
family
that would be helpful.
that might change. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Does anyone need a break, or can we swing into the,
I'm ready to go.
let's roll? Some 80s movie.
I'm sorry. Yes, I read it. Nice to meet you. Okay, sure.
I'll leave folks to it. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye, Chris. Thank you. Jenna, you need a second to get some stuff up and running over there? I can. You sure?
Mallory, you might need to plug it, can you plug it into your laptop?
No,
We're gonna have to we're gonna have to pull the cord out of your laptop then and switch it.
Maybe I'll just wait.
Rick, you can start.
Okay. Calling this meeting to order. Planning Commission, September 8, 2020. We have minutes from August 11 and August 25 that we need to.
Move to approve both.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Communications from the audience for items that are not listed on the agenda. Anyone can come forward at this time. All right, old business. Letter A, rezone 1002 Lincoln Avenue and 188 East 40th Street from the PUD district to the C2 district. Diamond Z Engineering and True North Energy are the applicant.
As the person who moved to put this on the table, I will move that we remove it from the table and bring it back into consideration.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we can discuss. Jenna, you still wanted to say something about this one, or did you want me to introduce?
Yeah,
the
I would like to introduce, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Do you want me to mention the letter B as well, or are we gonna do that separately?
So my thought was to introduce both together, and then you can hold a public hearing on them both together. And then in terms of your discussion, you can decide how you want to discuss, but then there will need to be two motions, one for the rezoning and then one for the site plan.
And just for clarification, my intent was to remove both of those items
Okay.
from the table.
I was gonna ask that question
Yes,
next.
and that's so that we can discuss both of them. So if we need to redo that, just to make sure that we're covering that correctly, that was the
Yeah.
intent of the motion.
Okay, Mallory, do you have that? The intent of the motion is to remove both from the table. Thank you.
So we have a rezoning and a site plan review, separate items, but both together.
Right. So, so the applicant is requesting rezoning of 1002 Lincoln Avenue and 188 East 40th Street at the corner of US 31, Lincoln and East 40th from C2, or I'm sorry, to C2 from PUD to construct a gas station. In reviewing the master plan and the future land use map, staff has stated that the future land use map designates these sites as highway commercial. In responding to the rezoning questions, which are in the staff report, which I apologize are not up at this moment, but are in front of planning commissioners here, that the properties under question could be used under their present zoning, but it should be noted that they have not been used in the last 20-some years. The proposed gas station use is compatible with the other land uses in the area, and with zoning with C2 just south of US 31. Existing uses at all of the corners along US 31, so if you think about 16th Street and 8th Street and 24th Street, 32nd Street, very similar C2 land uses are located there. And also the rezoning would be, to C2 would be consistent with development trends in the area. The site plan in front of you today was revised to remove the truck canopy fueling and the parking that would have gone along with that. You can also see here that they've increased landscaping quite substantially along 40th Street to provide more of a buffer between the adjacent residential land uses. Not located on this site plan yet are the pork chop that was previously discussed, so to restrict only right turns out of the driveway off of Lincoln. Also not on the site plan yet is a 6-foot wide sidewalk along 40th Street, or that revision to the Lincoln and East 40th intersection that Brian White has put as a condition of approval. And lastly, MDOT has looked at this and has suggested to put a fence along the vision corner, which is not yet shown on this site, or I'm sorry, on the site plan. However, the applicant has indicated that they are willing to do these, and they do remain as conditions of approval. The applicant is here. They do have a presentation that they would like to show you, and of course are here to answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Jenna.
You're welcome.
The
Mallory's
applicant would like-
setting that up,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's the temporary outage.
So Jenna, just so I understand it, anybody who's coming off of the highway and turning left onto Lincoln Avenue, in order to get into the spot, would have to go down 40th Street.
Would have to turn left onto 40th and then turn in, yes.
Okay.
And then turn left onto the 40th
And then left again.
Entrance.
entrance. No, I'm sorry. Going into the site, you can turn left off of the Lincoln
Yeah.
into the driveway
Before 40th Street.
before 40th Street. It's coming out of the site, you can only turn right.
On
Okay.
on
So you can
Lincoln.
enter off of Lincoln Avenue turning left, but you can't leave turning left.
Exactly.
Got it.
And what about 40th Street? Is there any entrance or exits off from 40th
Yes.
Street?
Yes.
There is.
And that's not restricted.
And that's wide open? Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. And there would be a intersection reconfiguration so that, so
Yeah.
here at, so at 40th, when you're coming onto 40th and
Right.
Lincoln, you would be able to have a dedicated right turn lane, dedicated left, so
Right.
that it, so you wouldn't have to wait for
So this
people
is
turning left.
eastbound traffic on 40th.
Exactly,
Would have an extra lane to either go left or right.
exactly,
On Lincoln Avenue.
yes.
Yeah, I understand that, okay.
Okay, so for the presentation,
Getting it up and running.
Real quick, while they're getting that set up, my name is Lindsay Lyden. I'm the Vice President of Development for True North Energy. We'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here today to present our project. Rick Turner, our engineer, is going to go through some of the details of the project. But I just wanted to say, we had taken the comments that staff had given us to heart and made those revisions that were requested. We really like this project. We really like being here in Holland, and we appreciate the opportunity to possibly build this site. And so with that, I'll let Rick Turner, our engineer from Diamond Z, go through the finer details of some of the revisions and everything that we've made.
Good evening. Glad to be back again. Sorry to still be wearing this mask. Someday we'll all get out of these, I guess. My name is Rick Turner with Diamond Z Engineering. We went back and we made some changes, and I think you can probably see it's pretty noticeable. You can go to the next slide. In looking at the site plan, there's that big empty spot. Well, it's not empty now. Empty spot that we would have had where the truck canopy was taken away has mostly been filled in with landscaping. And that fulfilled one of the other requirements was, hey, we need more landscaping between the residential area and the gas station. So we put a 2-foot berm there and then landscaping along the top of it. And then to the north of that, we have to replace the street trees. So those are shown also. And I did talk to Brian White this afternoon about the items that Jenna mentioned that are not shown on the drawing, and express my concern or my interest in getting more information from him on what he wants to see on the pork chop, the sidewalk, because I think the sidewalk will probably be pushed our way when the left turn lane is added in the right of way. So we'll work with him on those details and get that worked out. And one of the other things that happened when we did this project, we got the dumpster tucked behind the building, so it's not as evident. You don't see it when you're driving down 31. So I think that's a plus. And we ended up with a lot more pervious area. I think we're at about 50% on the pervious area, 51%. So, over half is not pavement. And that usually is a plus on these kind of projects. We think that what we've got here is a winner for Holland. We think that putting in the stormwater detention basin to the south will allow us to handle our stormwater and outlet into the city storm sewer, or could be Maplewood Intercounty Sewer. I'm not sure of the designation there, but we've thought it out, and I think we've got it handled. All in all, I think we've put some good effort into this, and I'm hoping you're pleased. If you've got any questions, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
What are the hours of operation that you're planning?
I'll defer to Lindsay on that.
This will be run, as a 24-hour location.
24-hour location, okay.
And I know there's talk of a left turn lane on 40th to allow people to get onto Lincoln, making a left turn there.
Yes.
Has there been any talk or discussion of a left turn lane on Lincoln if folks are going to be turning left into and I don't know if there's enough space there. I'm not a traffic engineer. I just know that there's a lot of north-south traffic, or especially north traffic through there, that I'd be worried about getting backed up with folks trying to make a left.
Well, I know there's left turn lane there now. I don't recall how far back it comes.
Okay. Yeah,
Brian,
it is much wider there.
yeah.
Mhm.
Is there one there, Jenna?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Are you comfortable calling this a gas station, or is that what you refer to? It seems like there's a couple of different things going on.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, you can call it a gasoline dispensing facility. That's kind of a governmental name for it, I guess. And
Uh-huh.
that includes gasoline, it includes diesel for passenger vehicles that would load at a standard passenger vehicle rate.
Mhm.
It includes convenience store and, restrooms and some food offer that True North markets in all their stores.
Are some of the stations, some of the gasoline pumping areas, are they set up for trucks as well as for automobiles?
Only trucks that you would, you drive,
Pickup trucks?
pickup
and
truck, an SUV.
Two-axle,
Yeah,
two-axle
yeah.
trucks.
When you get to bigger trucks, they want to see a higher flow of fuel,
Mhm.
especially when you get into ones that are commercial vehicles, like the hauling over the road. They tend to have accounts that are set up at various truck stop kind of places, and so that's where they go get their fuel.
Thank you.
Have you heard from any of the neighbors in that area?
I
At
have
all?
not. Have you heard from any neighbors?
No? Jenna?
Nope, only that one neighbor that had shown up to your previous
Meeting.
the
planning
at the
commission. She
last
had sent me
meeting.
an email.
Okay.
Do you remember hers?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And how many pumps? Is there 8?
Yeah, 8.
And do you have any plans of having any restaurant or anything inside, or is it just the convenience building?
No restaurant. There's some food offer. They do it so much better.
So we have our own branded coffee and fountain, and then more grab-and-go items, grab-and-go sandwiches, prepackaged items.
Okay.
And this is, and you may want to stay up, because I think you may be answering mine as well. And this is a little bit off topic, but looking down the road, and I know that you have more fuel dispensing locations, did I get that terminology correct? Have you looked at electric charging? I know when you're talking about grab and go, you got people in and out of there pretty quickly, but have you guys looked at the future of that and how that may affect what you do and what you provide?
We've discussed it. It is on our radar. It's not something that we're looking at putting into this particular location, but we have talked about it if it comes down the road where it becomes more popular in the future, plans to retrofit locations.
All right,
with-
cool.
with it if
That's,
that
I was just
happens.
curious about that as we start looking at these in the future. So, thank you.
Any other questions from commission members for the applicant? No? All right, thank
Okay.
you very much.
Sure.
At this time, we kept our public hearing open from our last meeting. So if anyone would like to come forward on this item, the site plan or the rezoning, they may do so at this time. You're not the public, sorry. All right, I will close the public hearing, if that's okay, Jenna.
Absolutely.
And I think that, commission members, we should talk about the rezoning first. But we will vote on each separately. But if there's any discussion to be had.
I have a concern about the rezoning request. It's something I've been puzzling about. I think I brought this up at the last meeting also. This property has been vacant now for some time, and you could say it's because of its zoning. You could also say because it's sandwiched between two very different uses that are very difficult to put together. On the south of the property, you have an interstate, and below that you have C2, that's zoning. On the north of the property, just across a very narrow two-lane street, you have the beginning of the R1 residential area that goes on for a long way. R1 being our most protected residential zone. And so I think it's a big challenge to try to develop this property in a way that takes advantage of or can withstand the noise and all that comes from a freeway. And then across the street, you're faced with a lot of R1 residential that goes on most of 40th Street all the way from, well, a long stretch, I should just say, from Lincoln all the way over somewhere. And so I think that's probably why the city zoned this as PUD. PUD is a kind of a special zone that possibly allows someone to try to configure this land in a way that can both protect the residential area as well as take advantage of the arterials on Lincoln as well as the interstate and take advantage of all that traffic. And so PUD was set up as that zone, and PUDs, as you can see if you look through the allowable uses for PUD, you can see that it's kind of a toned down area. If I can just go through this a minute, the uses for PUD, apartment residences, condominiums, and cooperatives, single-family duplexes, cluster housing, nursing homes, retirement homes, executive, professional, and administrative offices, medical and dental clinics, radio and television broadcasting, financial institutions, retail sales and services, hotels or motels, restaurants, athletic fitness clubs, mini warehouses, wholesale and warehousing businesses, parking facilities, sidewalk and outdoor cafes, and short-term rentals. Those are the allowable uses in PUD. And I think that by switching over to C2, I think it changes things quite dramatically, because it wouldn't just be the approval for this particular site plan. It could be an approval for anything that's allowed in C2. And so then you're talking about other more intensive uses that could possibly have a negative effect on single family across the street. 40th Street itself isn't like 32nd Street or 48th Street. 40th Street is only a two-lane road. It's one of the, if we had a classification system in Holland, maybe we do, it probably would be considered a minor arterial and not a major arterial, because it doesn't carry that much capacity. And there are residences all along 40th Street from one end to the other. And so I think that's why it was PUD, because we need to figure out some use that will both protect or be compatible with residential on one side and take advantage of the commercial opportunities that the highways and Lincoln Avenue bring. So I'm very reluctant to support the zone change to C2. But I just wanted to introduce this to other commissioners and see what they thought about it, because I value your opinion as well. And so I would like to know what you think about those things that I'm bringing up.
Before we go there, we're about to change that to highway commercial. Does highway commercial allow for gas stations?
So the master plan designates that as highway commercial, and that is equivalent basically to our C2 highway commercial zoning. For Udo, we are not planning on changing this, actually. Any PUD we're planning to keep. One thing I would just add, though, is that just to note that with a PUD, there's a whole host of uses that are already allowed with the PUD. Really, the only use that would not be allowed is a gas station. So those same uses could come now. Any of those uses that you listed could come now, other than a gas station.
So that raised when I saw that kind of raised the question to me, if we didn't allow for a gas station to be there because we zoned it PUD, why would we allow there to be a gas station now, even under a different zone? I mean, there must be something about that intensive use. And then, of course, 24 hours at that location is another issue altogether. But it almost speaks to the fact that there shouldn't be a gas station, because for some reason we left that out of PUD and we zoned this PUD. So it gives it another negative as far as I'm concerned.
And I thought I heard at our last meeting that this would be automatically rezoned under Udo to allow for this use, but it wouldn't be rezoned under the Udo?
No, that was incorrect.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Mark? Yes.
I'll just give a quick kind of historical aspect to this too. So I think I mentioned it, if not at the last meeting, perhaps the one before that. So I was here 25 years ago when, literally. So it was 25 years ago when the previous owner to True North, I think True North, you have a purchase agreement for the property right now? Yeah. From Schmuckel Oil Company. So Schmuckel Oil came in and they got going through the rezoning, or actually the property was zoned C2 25 years ago, okay? They came into the planning commission and wanted to just have a site plan approval to put a gas station in there, okay? And from what I understand, there was a huge outcry from the neighborhood, okay? And so that's the big difference. At that time, the neighborhood was very much against it. You've seen the amount of people who have come out this time around, just one person, so, or one family. So at that time, with the big outcry from the neighborhood, the Planning Commission and City Council decided to take kind of a drastic measure, and they rezoned the property from C2 to the PUD district, fully knowing that the PUD district does not allow gas station uses, okay? But it does allow the broad.
Does allow for a
It does
wide
allow for
variety
the
of uses.
broader range of retail, like Jenna said, almost anything that you can think of in C2 is allowed in PUD, with the big notable exception of does not allow for gas stations or automotive service type uses. So here we are 25 years later on, and you know, the private sector really wants this to be a gas station type use, with it being on a major highway and arterial street in the city. And so here they are asking the question again to rezone it back to the C2 from what it was 25 years ago. So staff is actually, I mean, we're in support of rezoning it this time around. Believe that it does fit our master plan. And if the rezoning is approved, the site plan, if there's any mitigating factors that have to occur, I think that we have them covered in the site plan to protect the neighbors and go from there, so.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Any other discussion among commission members?
Yeah, thank you, Mark, that was helpful. I think that was mentioned a meeting or two ago, but I had forgotten that piece. And I had also been thinking in my mind the same thing. The two other commissioners had been thinking that, you know, this was a foregone conclusion anyway. One piece that does have an impact on me in this regard is that the master plan does call for this to be C2 at some point in the future. And so when I'm looking at the broad scope of what are we looking for down the line in the community, it's for this to be C2. And I think that the public spoke 25 years ago and said, or the neighborhood spoke 25 years ago and said, we don't want a gas station there. We'd like any one of these other uses except for a gas station. And I was not here 25 years ago, so I was not part of that conversation or understanding what went into then council saying, you know what, we're going to unilaterally, without a request from a property owner, rezone this property to disallow the one thing that they're looking to do with this property. But then the city turned around and put a master plan together that said, well, actually, that is something that we'd like to see happen there. And the commercial public, or the development public has said, well, yes, all of these uses under PUD are allowable here. Nobody has stepped forward in that 25-year time period to do anything with this piece of property, which is in my mind, a pretty valuable piece of property in the community that has sat vacant and unused for 25 years and when we're looking at a buffer between the highway and the residential neighborhood, there is not really a buffer between the highway and the residential neighborhood right now. There's a vacant lot that allows for all of that noise and the view of 31 there to come right straight through to that neighborhood without any sort of buffer. And while I agree, Fred, we're opening this up for the possibility that some other use could be there at some point in the future. But in all likelihood, there would have to be a site plan for a use that would change dramatically. And I really like the big buffer that they have put in between the gas station and that neighborhood. 60-some feet of buffer with trees in between.
Linear feet, not width,
Not-
length.
Oh, no.
60 feet of length.
Did I look at that incorrectly? I think that's the whole green, that's a big wide green space there, yeah.
Okay. But now we're talking about the site plan.
No, but
moving
I-
off the zoning.
Right, but I can't, yes, we've separated the two in a vote, but I can't separate the two in terms of looking at it. Because we're not being asked to just rezone this for any particular,
Except everything in C2 will be by right. I mean.
I agree.
We can't just turn down anything because we don't like it. There's numbers of things.
no, I agree with that.
The
But
zoning has
we're
changed.
not having somebody coming in a vacuum and saying, would you just rezone this property to C2? We are having them come with a site plan along with it of, if you do the rezoning, this is what we're looking at building there. And yes, that is this use at this point, but if it were to change down the line, in other words, if they didn't want, if they were no longer gonna have this plan there down the line, assuming we approve the site plan as well, another site plan's gonna have to come to us in terms of what's gonna happen if there's gonna be significant change there. So I get what you're saying, but the pieces that kind of throw it on the other side for me are, one, it sat for 25 years and none of those other uses that were possible under PUD, no one's been interested in taking advantage of any of those for this piece of property. And 25 years has gone by and we're not seeing an outcry from the neighborhood like apparently there was 25 years ago for this. And while, yes, we're voting on the rezoning of the property, we're voting on the rezoning in anticipation of looking at this particular site plan down the road. And I'm assuming, the applicant's not looking at saying, okay, you've rezoned it, now we're gonna quickly withdraw our site plan request on this and walk out the door and do something differently with it. I'm looking at the two in tandem. That I like the idea of providing an opportunity for this piece of property to be developed and potentially in a way under this site plan that's gonna provide additional buffer that isn't there now for the people in that neighborhood. I was not happy about trucks in there at all, but for a gas station in this location, I think this is actually a pretty good location for a gas station this kind of use.
Okay.
Even though those other C2 things could be done as well.
I agree with almost everything you say, except if I were living in one of those residences across the street, I don't think, what this does is it tips the scale. It had been zoned PUD because it's something between the two. It's something between heavy commercial or industrial or some heavy use and something that would be really inimical to the neighborhood right across the street. It's something in the middle with less intensity. And so while nothing has happened over the last 25 years, it could be because it's so difficult to develop this less intense thing. You have residential across the street. The street itself is a narrow street. I think that's a significant factor. There's a bicycle lane on either side of it. It's encouraged that bicyclists ride on that street. And that's all there is, 2 lanes and 2 bicycle lanes, and that's it. And so that argues the fact that anything on this property will have a much more, and not much more, but a more immediate effect on those properties across the street. So, I mean, I agree with I battle with myself about this because I know what you're saying and I agree with it. You know, I think what the staff has said here under this section B, which these are the criteria for rezoning. It says, is the proposed use compatible with other zoning and land uses in the area? It says yes. Well, no, not if you consider the residential across the street. There's only, it's like looking at half the puzzle. Yes, it is if you look at the interstate and you look at C2, but no if you're looking at the residential right across the street. So I don't think that was correct by the staff just to list one half of these things like that. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but I probably would vote no on the rezoning.
Yeah. And Fred, I agree with you completely in theory on that idea of that the PUD is a nice bridge between the two, but in practice, it's shown in this location that's just not a use that the community is interested in making and taking advantage of in this particular spot under PUD, at least not for the last 25 years.
Do we advocate C2 across the street from R1? If we were planners and for the city, would we say, oh, let's put a lot of C2 across from R1?
When they put the master plan together, they did.
Well, but the reason they didn't implement it right away, and they're still not going to implement it because it's PUD. I mean, I don't know whether they really looked at that very carefully. I don't know how much of the city has juxtaposed C2 and R1. I don't know. I haven't ever really looked at that.
Can I jump in?
Yes, Lynn, you may jump in.
Could you pull up that other map that you had, the one in the middle there? So this is really a helpful conversation because I actually was in my mind thinking more along your lines, Fred, that it just didn't seem to make sense because it seemed like you were jumping from R1 to commercial, like there was no middle ground. But then when you pulled up this whole map and looked at the whole neighborhood, I think that we have essentially residential across from C2, all in this area down south of 31. And there's a lot of people who live in this area who I think could benefit from the gas station type business on that site, especially as it's changed. So there's all of this R4, these are all mobile home here. These R4 is all mobile home. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who live in these areas. And so I think, well, if I look only south, then that's, or I can see that. But if I take the whole picture of the area, it makes more sense to me, especially as they've made adjustments to the site plan. So I feel more comfortable with the rezoning based on what I see here. I do have some questions about the site plan, but that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah, I have some thoughts too. I do think what Fred is saying makes a lot of sense. If we were having this conversation next year with the UDO, they would be requesting this to be corridor mixed use. And under that zoning designation, they would need a special land use exception as well. So we're baking into the future some kind of hesitancy towards gas stations, meaning they need to be in certain places under special conditions. So I think thinking about this long term, if we have this hesitancy towards this, and Nathan, you brought up the electrical vehicles aspect, like how long are we going to be wanting gasoline gas stations, right? So if long term we have a hesitancy towards this, and like maybe you can retrofit them, but I don't think that's really the case. I think people are going to charge at home. We're going to have a brownfield lot there in 40 years, if things go well. And then that also has ripple effects. There is an empty lot across the street, and if we had an intermediary PUD use there, then that empty lot, might spring up residential, which is what the city really needs right now. But if we go with the gas station, then that lot is less desirable and less valuable. So I think we have to take a step back and think about the full implications, both throughout the city and long term.
Thanks, Andrew. Jenna, can you just clarify for me what's next to this lot? We have a long row of businesses, correct? And then next to that is a storage facility?
Correct. So storage facility is right here.
Nope. No,
Oh,
way
no,
over.
sorry, right here.
No,
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 keep going.
way over.
Keep going east.
Yeah, a little bit more east.
the light purple.
The light purple's over.
Go to the
zoom-
right.
zoom
There you
in
go.
on it, Yeah.
Yeah, that's storage facility.
That is a storage facility behind that residential. It's next to it.
There's an auto dealership, Prestige Auto Sales, there's a used car dealership right there as
Yeah,
well.
used car dealership, there was a Fit Body boot camp there, there was a car detailing place there. Some almost light industrial that went on the north end of that strip mall property there.
Buses, Yeah.
I guess while we're still.
I'm looking at the uses of that area that are already across from residential. I am wondering, I don't know if Jenna or Mark have ever gotten any complaints about those businesses from the residences that live along 40th? Or, no?
I haven't.
No,
Mark, have
okay.
you?
And their uses and noise or whatever. I think there's two things kind of going on with this property is, one, it's right off the highway. So yes, a gas station makes sense in that spot. But it also is a sensitive area because there is residential right there. And I don't think you can compare the intersections of 16th and 31 or 8th and 31 to this location. Just because of the houses that are so close to the highway. But
But I think that's why they put the big buffer in.
yes, I do appreciate that. I have to say, the semi trucks were totally
Yeah.
not what I wanted to see there at all. But I am wondering though if it would make it better or not, and this would be a question for Brian White, if the entrance to the gas station was only from 40th or not, but.
That view shows what's next door.
Mm-hmm. There's the storage facility.
No.
And then the grouping of
the-
businesses, and there may be a residential in between there, I'm not sure. Thanks, Jenna.
My thoughts on this are 25 years vacant, not being redeveloped, and so as I look at it and I see all the commercial down that road and the residential that's long-term been across from commercial, now this is a higher use and intensity, but I think the thought of it being housing is a stretch at any time, that this could be housing.
Right.
And, you know, we cannot rezone and have another 25 years of a vacant piece of land.
I think the only thing about this property is though it's never been for sale. So to say that it hasn't been developed in the last 25 years, it never had an opportunity to be turned into anything else either.
I think probably everything's for sale that's sitting, even though maybe not had a sign up front. You know, I tend to agree about, I agree with the rezoning, you know, let's say that, I hear Fred too, I struggled with it as well. But I also looked at what that highway commercial master plan, what that means along that whole thing, and this falls right in line with that. And it seems to be there's a hodgepodge of zoning all along that stretch, if you looked at all those different colors on the map. I think that's a good or a bad thing, but it's a lot of different things along 31.
There's a little triangle there, Jenna, that's zoned R1, but there are no houses there, correct?
Did you look at we were just looking at that in the map. Can you
Yeah.
zoom right
That's-
back to
I
the
think
map
that's-
right here?
I
that's-
think that's where that woman lives who came.
there.
I think there's a
Oh, she
there's
lives
a,
there? I thought she lived across on 40th.
I think that's
I
a
thought she
septic
lived on
tank
Lincoln.
place, isn't it? Isn't that Voss Boys septic tanks?
No, that's further down.
That's further down?
I
Yeah.
think there's a residential unit in there.
There's like a realty or something, or a finance
I
or
looked
something.
at the address
here.
of that.
Yeah,
I
that-
don't know if this is
Yeah,
a residence.
the one on the north part of that, just north of where that 40th Street sticks out, that used to be like an Edward Jones office and a
Mhm.
real estate office at one
Mhm.
point. But I thought this space, that large paved area or gravelled area there was the septic tank place.
I think there's a residential house back, I think there's a house back there. I feel like there's a house.
I thought the
there.
bus.
Yeah, there is a house on the southeast corner
Okay.
Yeah.
of that lot, yep.
Okay.
That's what they're saying, house right there, 955 Lincoln.
Nope, this is a hard one. We have residences really close to the highway there.
Yeah.
Does anybody
And-
have a motion or any more comments?
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for a motion yet, but I think that's, Fred, it's kind of to your point, that's been my issue with this in the beginning, where I was kind of thinking, well, I don't want to go into the actual site plan, because I'm not even sure if that's even the question yet because of what it's currently zoned at. The challenging part that we have with this property versus somewhere else is, it is that residential right there with the lack of buffer. There is quite a bit of other commercial areas, but like I said, the intensity is a lot less, especially if you're looking at a 24-hour. You got Yonkers Gardens, you got a couple other things that are going in there, but they are done at a specific time. So at the end of the day, I think there's always that ending point versus not. I think that the three biggest ones, and it really is the community. We didn't hear a lot of what they have to say, and I think that's the unfortunate part. Maybe that would happen a little while ago. If I was a resident, I think I would love to hear, okay, I'm okay with it, or no, I'm not, and I'm very adamantly against it. And I think that would have helped with here. I agree. It hasn't happened, but I don't think I ever really had the opportunity to switch over. I do appreciate the buffer. I think, looking at the site plan, I think that definitely helped calm some of my hesitations, especially for those residents right on Northern and 40th Street. Because really those three right here at the north end are the ones that can be impacted the most. I think down the block, once you're going down 40th, you are going to get some heavier traffic, but I think a lot of people cut through anyways. And they're not going to be going down if they're going to the gas station. So really, it's going to be those ones. And kind of back to what you were mentioning, it's those three that I would have loved to heard the voices of, but I don't know. I guess all that to say, I think we're all kind of in the same predicament where, that's the only hesitation we have.
Jenna, can I ask a question? Can you do a rezoning and a site plan at the same time? As far as like, if we rezone it,
That's my
it's
question.
only can be rezoned if this is built? Because Fred was
Can we-
talking about if we rezone it to C2, then anything could happen, if they decide to sell it after it's
Right.
rezoned.
Right, so no, we don't do conditional rezoning, so that could happen.
Right.
However, we do, as a city, require a site plan or a concept plan when a rezoning is being proposed, so that there's a decision being made based on what the proposed use would be.
Okay. Sounds good.
For the residents, how often were they noticed or, mailed to be aware of this project?
They were noticed once prior to the August 11th meeting. So anyone 300 feet away from those properties would have been noticed by mail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is the standard noticing we
Mhm.
do every time there's a rezoning.
Absolutely,
Yep.
yes.
And 300 feet, how many of the homes, do you have any idea? Is it all of the homes kind of on that strip, or, as we're talking about, folks haven't come out?
I'm going to have Mallory answer that one since she sent out the notices.
If you go to the file, the J Drive file,
Okay, right.
for the addresses, there's actually a buffer map. We can see which ones were.
No.
The 300 feet, yeah.
Is that 300-foot buffer map? Yeah.
So all the.
So everything in the teal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, and on the southeast corner of that's that mobile home park, that's literally hundreds of people that are. Well, that's one of them, there's another one just south of that. Yep. That all would have received notices of this.
There are other gas stations, aren't there, in this area?
Yes, there is a gas station
Yep.
on Lincoln, yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I do want to quickly address nothing's been built in the last 25 years thinking. The world is changing pretty fast, and I think it'd be a mistake to think that the last 25 years are representative of the next 25 years. So we have increasing economic pressures to build different sorts of things. So I'm optimistic about the future, and think we can maybe do better. But those are just my thoughts.
That is a good point.
All right.
Well, is it possible to make a negative motion? Is it possible to motion to deny, or do we have to deny a affirmative?
Our recommendation would be to make an affirmative motion.
I'll get things rolling. I'll move we approve the rezoning. Were there conditions that we needed on that? Were they just on the site plan?
Just on the site plan.
Okay.
And this is a recommendation to city council for approval.
Yes. Recommendation to city council for the rezoning of this parcel.
And I'll support that.
All right. Can we do a roll call, Mallory, for the rezoning, please?
Yep. Lozano,
No.
Raymond,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
DeBlock,
Yes.
No.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
No.
and Anderson.
Yes.
Vote passes.
Okay. Rezoning, recommendation to council for rezoning has been
Now,
passed.
So I
No.
would motion to approve the site plan with the staff recommendations.
Well,
as-
can we discuss the site plan now?
That's what we
Yes.
do.
Separately.
Don't we make a motion and then discuss, or do we discuss and then make a motion?
I think
Typically, we
can-
discuss ahead
I
of
think we can
time.
discuss. I think remember when we had last year, Marvin, we talked to Marvin about that. He was always rushing to make a motion, and we said, let's have a moment to discuss before we get into the motion making. If everybody wants to stay with that process, it seems less formal. Less pressure, yeah.
I like this plan. I like that much better than the previous iteration of it. I think we've all said that we weren't big fans of the truck aspect of this. I do think that the majority of the vehicle traffic that's going to be coming in and out of here is going to be off of Lincoln. Well, there's that entrance off of 40. I think that what you're going to see is people coming down, either coming on the highway and making the left turn in and then the right turn out, or up and down Lincoln Avenue, because 40th isn't trafficked nearly as much. And I don't see a lot of people coming in off of 31, looking at that left turn and going, well, I'll just go around the corner. Probably because they're not going to be able to see that other entrance unless they're backed up on Lincoln. And I do like that big buffer space that they've put on the north end of this project to be able to provide that buffer for those homes.
I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
I have some concerns about the 24-hour operation. I think some gas stations shed a lot of light all night long on a 24-hour operation, and some gas stations are now even making a lot of noise. Every pump has a video going or a radio going or something like that, and so I think it could be quite a nuisance for the people across the street, being a 24-hour operation and or being loud. And so I don't know what the applicant had thought about that, or if they had thought about something less than a 24-hour operation, but it appears that's in their business plan, so.
Jenna, can I ask a question about, we do have a noise ordinance in the city, correct? And if there's houses directly across the street, it's 10 PM, right? As far as,
Yes.
if they were playing a video at the gas station, which I don't know if they are, if it was past 10 PM and the neighbors across the street could hear it, then they'd have to abide by the city ordinance, correct?
Well, they can call and contact the community and neighborhood services and make a complaint. It's on a complaint basis.
Yeah. It's not strongly enforced, our noise ordinance, but nonetheless, I'm more concerned about the light than I am the noise. All night long lights there. I don't know how much the lights would cast across the street. I don't know what that would be like. But that's probably about my only concern with the site plan.
And again, that would also be considered a nuisance, so they could complain if there was glare in their windows or things of that sort.
Well,
for
do,
light.
is that all we do for protecting residential areas from light? I mean, I know we don't let street lights happen.
Well,
in a
so we do
certain
have
way.
an ordinance right now in our ordinance, well, the ordinance language is that foot candles need to be 0.5 on property lines that are immediately adjacent to residential. So because there's a street in between, they're not actually immediately adjacent, but I don't believe that they're very high. I can get to the foot candle count here. Specifically trying to zoom into area.
Those little green numbers, are those the foot candles?
Yes. Doesn't wanna do.
I think one
what
thing
I
to
want
note though
to
too, Fred, is that the
do.
building itself is pushed back pretty
Mhm.
far from 40th.
Mhm.
Could I make one comment about that?
You can come to the microphone, correct? Yeah.
So if Jenna gets that map up, you'll see that we do abide by the foot candle restrictions along that property line. And this photometric was done when we had the truck canopy there, and we meet it. Now the truck canopy's gone, we've got even less light over there. The lights that we use LED light that directs the lighting down, so you don't get a lot of spread heading out away from the site. And we don't have the kind of lenses that hang down on the canopy and have a bright super metal halide bulb that blast out from that point. So the lighting on this site would be a lot friendlier than you've seen at some other competition, I think. We've got some yard lights that are shown by the approach right there, and even the lighting behind those is lower.
Yeah, it does drop off pretty dramatically, pretty quickly.
And this is with the truck canopy, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get you a revised photometric on that without the truck canopy.
So I have a question about, are you done? Were you done?
I'm finished.
I had a question, because I've never seen this before in a site plan where Brian has indicated that it was about this is on page 8 of your staff report, and he talks about if there are functional problems with the driveway operation or a crash concentration of 5 or more crashes, then they'd have to, I assume that something would have to be done. And I don't know what are the options if there is that issue. Would we be pushing traffic then to 40th Street in order to enter into the site?
Potentially, there would be further restriction on that driveway.
Yeah, I've never seen him, it's almost like he's anticipating, and that was the thing that was the concern. One person who came to talk to us, that was her biggest concern, was the increase in traffic accidents. And so I would be concerned that if we're anticipating that, which it seems like maybe we might be, then we would eventually have to push more traffic to 40th Street.
I wouldn't say that he's anticipating it. I think that he's just trying to be safe about it, just in case.
Yeah.
So that he can, put that in now rather than if something does happen. I mean, he is concerned with the left turn into Lincoln, or off of Lincoln. But the traffic study has come back saying that there's not a concern, that there shouldn't be a concern based on crash history. And our consultant with WSP did find that there would be an issue. So again, I don't think that he's anticipating. I would say that he's just making sure that item's there just in case.
Because did I read that they did not agree with the traffic consultant's report?
No,
Where
they
did I
didn't.
read that?
They didn't in terms of, the traffic study came back saying that there was not a recommendation for any geometric improvements,
Got it.
so,
Okay.
the pork chop or,
Mhm.
restricting any turn lanes. But, or for that matter, the intersection at Lincoln and 40th for that, restructuring. But looking at it, holistically, Brian and the city and Mark and I would support this, wanted to make sure to limit any conflicts as much as possible. The crash history does not show that, as of now, that there would be any significant concern, or that this is even likely to occur. And at that point, everything would be looked at as well. I mean, it wouldn't happen without a further review in terms of, does it make sense to push everything to 40th? Does something else make sense?
And then the other question I had was just at the exit, I can't tell on your project site and vicinity whether or not if they exit directly facing a house across the street.
On 40th Street.
Right
that
on
exit.
40th Street.
Mhm.
I mean, the swinging lights are gonna be a problem anyway, but,
Mhm.
but, I wasn't sure where the exit was in relation to the houses across the street.
Would you like to, Rick? I think we could maybe see it on Google, actually.
I was going to suggest that if you could zoom in on Google, because the approach that we are proposing to use is one of the ones that is already there.
I apologize that this surface is a little difficult to work with.
Well, and just a reminder too, that there's not a house directly on the corner across the street of 40th. There's an open lot right on the corner.
Yeah, we were talking about, I think we're talking about where the curb cut is on
Right.
40th. If that curb cut is right across from the house.
Well, there's a lot of trees there. It looks like
So
the
I'm looking at a
driveway's
street
off the
view.
left.
It will go into a house, but they do have a lot of trees. But it's kind of hard to tell how far into it.
You're talking about that first approach is yours? Would be,
The one to the west.
Yeah,
The second one.
oh, the second one.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get to the street view. Unfortunately, Bing doesn't want to do it, so we're going to go back to Google. So while we're waiting for this, is it true that on Lincoln Avenue, northbound Lincoln traffic can turn left into the site, and southbound Lincoln traffic can turn right into the site? Is that
Correct.
correct?
The restriction is for traffic leaving and
Right.
turning left onto Lincoln. That is not allowed.
Right. Where do you anticipate most of your traffic coming in from? Is it gonna be evenly distributed, 50% on on Lincoln and 50% on 40th? Or have you gotten that far in how you're
I
thinking
haven't
about
gotten
it?
that. Have you looked at traffic study on where you think traffic's coming from? I mean, it seems like most of the traffic that is coming in proximity to the site is on Lincoln.
Yeah,
And I would think, the right in and right out, or people who are turning left in and then right out would
Yeah.
probably be more in the majority.
So here's the street view. This is the curb cut. So there is a house, but not a driveway directly across. But there is quite a bit of vegetation already in that yard.
If you think about any type of business or housing that would go in there though, if that approach is already there, they would potentially use the same one that's already there. I don't really see this as a huge issue, to be be honest. Typically, those kind of houses, the living room's in the front, so hopefully the bedroom's in the back.
I would like to ask a question of another commissioner about the lights that they're proposing. Andrew, is there any comment you'd make about the suitability of those lights in that area?
Yeah, so their lighting plan is actually pretty good. Fully downward fixtures, short poles. We're talking a 17-foot height. Their gas station canopy is a little hot, in my opinion. You could drop it a lumen package down one, but it's not atrocious.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I was thinking they could drop the canopy down, it was a little hot, they could drop it down a lumen package.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Does anybody have a motion?
I think I did that, but okay.
Well, we
I
discussed
would
now,
move to
so.
approve the site plan with the staff's recommended conditions.
Support.
Can you do a roll call, Mallory, please?
All right. Raymond,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Lozano,
Yes.
DeBlock,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Blunt,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
and Anderson.
Yes.
All right, vote passes.
All right. Thank you
you.
for your
I'll be in-
patience among our discussion, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much.
I'll be in touch.
All right. So this was, Jenna, these were both recommendations to council or just the rezoning?
Just the rezoning, the site plan is
ours.
approval.
Okay,
Though it's conditioned on the rezoning.
right. New business, site plan review for 875 East 48th Street for a new 500,000 square foot building, 3 outbuildings, a gatehouse addition, and site improvements. Is it Gofari? LG
Gafari
Chem.
Associates.
LG Chem is the applicant.
I'm gonna just check outside real quickly. I think maybe
I'm not seeing
Marcus-
anyone in here.
Okay.
Would this be something we might have to reschedule,
It might be.
potentially? Okay.
I'm just going to double check my email real quickly. I don't know if perhaps I received anything. I did not. I spoke with the gentleman earlier, so, oh, you know what I did? I did receive a voicemail from him, so.
Shall we reschedule this to the next meeting, or
Do you wanna
do we
listen
need to
before-
table
Yeah.
it, or do we
Yeah,
need
do
to?
you- Yeah, or do you want to take a listen to your voicemail a minute and?
It's tabled,
It's tabled?
yeah, because I've received an email as well requesting tabling that I thought was sent to Mark at like 4 o'clock.
I move we table this to
Yeah.
the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, so I
Um,
guess there has been a request, based on the request by the
So-
applicant.
We have a motion. Is there a support?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, this item has been tabled till the next scheduled meeting. Communications and petitions, scheduling of public hearings, there are none, correct?
Correct.
Communications from commission members?
Yes.
Yes,
Just
Lynn.
send Marvin's greetings to everybody. I ran into him at the grocery store. He said he was pretty happy with the Udo.
Oh,
If
that's
he's listening-
great.
If he's listening right now.
Oh, my gosh.
Said he was pretty happy. There are some things in there, well, he's not so sure about, but he was pretty happy with it. And anyway, he says hello to everyone.
Thanks, Lynn.
Say hi back.
Yeah. You see him at the grocery store again. Tell him we all say hi. Communications from staff?
None. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with Udo and whatnot. Certainly, we're making a lot of progress, and more to come on September 22nd, but also look for that email. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody?
Bye.
Oh, okay.